Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of Collegiate Circumstances. I'm your host, Marian Angeles, and this is our show. So, hello, everybody. That intro always kind of gets me because it's like you get into the mood of just my super nerdy self and just like give it all to you guys. So, for today, we're going to be talking about, if I remember correctly, we're going to be talking about the very first movie that has ever had a digital premiere ever, really. It's called This Is the Year. And if you guys haven't heard about this movie, it was directed by David Henry, who was, oh my gosh, my brain's he was the older brother to Alex on Wizards of Waverly Place. And it is executive produced by Selena Gomez. So I saw the trailer and them doing this digital premiere, and I also saw that it was being donated to, some of the proceeds were being donated to various causes, like One Plus, who is helping the a musicians organization who are struggling right now, and also with COVID and like several other things. And I thought, hey, this would be fun. I think it would be cool. So that's exactly what happened. I bought a ticket. I think the day before it premiered on August 27th, and watched it the next day. So definitely was busy on that Friday. And it's the same Friday where I watched a whole bunch of other movies that I'm going to be talking to you guys about. But I think this movie has a really great significance to it, where it's that feel-good movie that you want. And there's so many people that, if you know Wizards of Waverly Place or you know Disney, you'll definitely know plenty of these characters. Like Alyssa Drills, if I'm correct, she's on, oh my gosh, my brain, The Good Doctor. And she plays Zoey, this girl that our main character is into. And our main character is actually David Henry's younger brother, Lorenzo. And he plays Josh, this kid who is in his own little world, and all he wants is to get the pretty girl at the end of high school and just win her over. And of course, there's just the fact that he's infatuated with her. He has thought it was love. He thought that his crush was love, and that he would end up with her, and he does everything to do that. And his best friend, Molly, who is Vanessa Morano, older sister to Laura Morano, who is also on Disney. Do you see the correlation here? Molly helps her best friend Josh get the girl by convincing everyone to come on a road trip to go see Lovely the band, which everyone loves. And Jake Short's also in this movie as Mikey, who you might know from Ant Farm and Mighty Med. And then there's also Buck Hall. He's also an executive producer. He played Alfalfa for the Little Rascals. Even Greg Sulkin's in this, who was also in Wizards. Even Uncle Kevo from Wizards of Waverly Place is in this. Like, I was looking at the cast list, and I'm looking at it right now, and I think it's absolutely crazy what they did. And of course, David wanted to pick people that he knew would be able to play the roles well, and they did. They did such a great job. And I think they hit on a lot of really important points in terms of life and what we really see in it, and sometimes the expectation versus reality. Like, that's pretty much what this whole movie is about, is that you always are expecting something to happen and expecting things to go one way, but in real life, it's just going to be crazier or more fun or more mundane sometimes. Like, sometimes I'll think, oh, I'm going to have such a fun day today and, like, go do this with my friends or go hang out here. But in reality, I'm staying at home because, we're still in quarantine and I'm not allowed to really leave my house. So it's expectation versus reality, people. One of a person that I met, when I mentioned the movie to them, they had never heard of it. And I said, oh, the movie's called This Is the Year. And they said, this is quite the year. And I was starting to laugh. Like, what? No, that's not what I actually meant. But, okay. So, definitely, this movie is kind of represents the year that we have, that we were all expecting something to happen this year. But in reality, it's so different and warped. And we'll probably get more into that before I, get into the caveat that I need to get into. So, I want to really give a good example of expectation versus reality, because I've already touched on it, and man, I really wanted to make that point for later on in this episode, but I guess that's how it's going to go, because everything that I do for you guys is pretty much within 1 to 2 shots. I don't film a clip more than 2, maybe 3 times. It'll never happen like that. I give it to you honest and just straight. Almost none of this is edited. I just do it out of my mouth. So just close your eyes and imagine before you started high school or before you started college, one movie that really stood out to you and what you thought that experience would be like because you watched that movie. I'll give a really basic example. So High School Musical. Of course, you don't expect people to sing and dance in the halls when you're 6 or 8, but you do expect at least something really fun. You expect people to really get along and build all these connections and have that romance, and you kind of see all these things when you're younger and you're like, oh my gosh, could that actually happen? Could life be more exciting? And then when you actually start school, you realize that, hey, there's quite a bit of work that's involved. The friends that you're going to maintain isn't easy to always maintain. There's always going to be some drama. Then that relationship doesn't really happen because a lot of guys in high school are not necessarily the most mature. I know guys who were in school with me who were super mature and were some of the sweetest, kindest people. And they had really good relationships with their girlfriends, and that's amazing, but you don't find that a lot in high school. A lot of the things that you don't find you see in movies don't actually happen. And I think that's what I hate about some movies and TV shows, that you'll watch things and you'll be like, this isn't my experience. School's a lot harder than this, and it's not as 1, 2, 3 as looking at something like this. But that's the beauty of film and television. Directors, executive producers, teams can reimagine an experience based on what they think it can convey, or for what audience it can convey. And High School Musical is meant for kids. So you kind of want that, it's so happy and so fun. But later on, they found out, a lot of other people are watching High School Musical. So they kind of give a little bit more seriousness to the movie, but at the same time, it's still going to be watched by 7, 8, 9-year-olds. Those are the kids that are watching a lot, but there's also grown adults who watch High School Musical. So that's what I'm thinking when it comes to escapism, is that we all don't want to be part of our mundane lives sometimes, and we use TV shows and movies to escape, but to some extent that can go way out of hand. And this movie kind of shows an example of expectation versus reality. So I actually was watching the premiere and what David Henry and Selena Gomez were talking about in terms of how they want to direct this film. So I really want to point out what points that they made and what correlations I could see. And for sure, Disney movies have that idealization that you're like, oh, could life be like this? No, we all know life's going to be a little bit more boring than that, but it's your life. So you're the one who's going to make it exciting. And that's really what's the point of this entire movie. Please excuse the noise in the background. It's my family. So with Lorenzo, aka Josh, who's our main character, he has seen this one movie, and it's something Belmont High, and it's how this super nerdy guy ends up getting the girl at the very end of the movie. And And he just wants that. He wants the girl who's gorgeous and pretty and everything that he wants for himself. He wants a relationship with her. And he's just too scared to do it. But in the last quarter of high school, he finally brings himself up to do it and to talk to her. And but in reality, he found something that's so much better. And throughout the movie, he chases after Zoey, and then suddenly he starts developing a connection with his best friend Molly, and he starts falling for her. Then when Molly ends up meeting another guy later on in the movie, who is our lovely, lovely director, he actually does act a little bit in this one. Josh is upset. He doesn't want another guy near Molly at all. And he realizes that the reality is that he's in love with Molly and that he should go after her, because sometimes reality can just be 10 times, 20 times better than anything else. And that's really special, because I think at some point in our lives we go to that. I'm sorry if you guys are watching on the YouTube feed, the camera does shake a little bit, so I apologize. And if you hear a little bit of some feedback, I'm so sorry. I'll do my best to fix that for next episode. But there is, for Josh, he comes to this realization that life can be so much better than the things that he sees in movies, and he lets it go. And I'm still in that stage, for me at least, that I have this sort of escapism way of life, because I've lived at home for so long, and I don't really talk to people often. The most I talk to is the camera in front of me. And I'm really starting to break out of that shell and realize that reality can be so much better, because I can make it better. And I can go outside now and go do things once it is safe to do so. Or with people who I've distanced away for 2 weeks. We all know the gist right now, since this will be released in a time where we will all still be at home. And I think that's just really important, that if you are and you escape and you do commit escapism, where you're going to TV shows and movies to make yourself feel better, go right ahead. But it's not the life that we live right now, because the life that we live right now is exactly what we make it. And if you don't choose to make it the best that you can, then you're going to turn to escapism, and that's, I think, worse off. Okay, so in terms of relationships, we've already covered the main couple in this movie, which is Josh and Molly. But I wanted to go over Zoey and her relationships. So with Zoey, she has this she feels that everyone only talks to her because she's pretty, and that she feels that she can't be her real self without people not accepting her, and she's scared that people won't care about her. Of course, there's that aspect that when you're pretty, you can't really do as much. Now, here's the thing: I don't relate to that scenario, because between me and my siblings and I'm not the pretty one. My younger sister is. And I've always seen that. And it's a little hard, I guess, when it's me and I'm questioned why guys aren't interested in me. I guess it's just because of how high strung I am. It's not like I'm a bad person, but I'm just very high strung and very analytical. It takes a lot for someone to be okay with who I am as a significant other, because I'm very out there, but I'm also very closed in. So when you're talking about that in terms of relationships, Zoe's the one who feels like she has to hold herself back. And just because she's the pretty one, and just because she thinks people won't like her. And her boyfriend, Kale, in this movie, it's short for Caleb. Kale is like this hippie way of saying a name. And I was like, what the frick is this name? I don't get it. And Kale is played by Greg Sulkin. Now, I love Greg Sulkin so much. Avalon High, Wizards of Waverly Place. He did A Cinderella Story, A Christmas Kiss with Laura Morano. There's just, I could probably name a couple. Even Marvel Runaways, he did a lot. I love him. But he did a really good job at playing his character, because he's like this artist who doesn't care about anybody else except himself and does what he wants regardless of what Zoe thinks, and is her boyfriend. And I'm thinking to myself, you're playing your role really well, because I don't like Kale right now. I really don't like Kale, because Zoe is frustrated by Kale. Like, she feels like she can only be with people who are pretty or who will appeal to what she is, and that's messed up, really. And no one should ever have to be in a relationship like that. And once Zoe and Molly talk, and Molly tells Zoe, oh, you're acting like this because she wants to study psychology and be a therapist. Well, she said that she wants to study psychology. And Molly psychoanalyzes Zoe and pretty much describes her to a T. When Zoe hears that later on and realizes that Kale's been just not a good boyfriend, it's just using her, it's awful. It's just like this. I think for me, I thought it was awful, but for her, I was just happy for her, because she finally realized her worth. And when you're talking about relationships and your own self-worth and what you value yourself as, sometimes it's better to be away from those relationships and focus on the friends that you have around you before getting into a relationship. One of my friends that I had when I was in middle/high school, she said to me that she always will, no matter what, if I end up dating anybody, I will never prioritize him over my friends, because my friends come first. And if the guy can become an important part of my life to be with my friends, then he can come equal. And that's exactly what this is about, is that the self-worth that you have in yourself can really define how you live your life and what you do. So I almost forgot about another dynamic. It was, my brain kind of got caught off for a second because I had my sister calling me, so that's probably what you heard in the background. I'm sorry. And so the dynamic that I also wanted to talk about, there's a couple. There's this one and then one more, I promise. I want to talk about Mikey and, hold on, sorry. Also his older brother, Donnie. So with the two of them, Mikey and Donnie's parents passed away. And Donnie, the older brother, had to figure out how to raise his younger brother, Mikey. And they both had a dream to run a food truck and travel around the country. And they're just super close. But the issue is that Mikey applied to college and was accepted. And he didn't want to leave his brother behind. Now, with siblings, there's always that bond, no matter how much you hate them. Sometimes you really will hate your siblings at some points. No kidding, I promise you. That somehow you'll still love them in some measly way. But that doesn't happen for everybody, and I recognize that. But in terms of Mikey and Donnie, they build their trust on having the dream that they will be able to give out food, have a food truck, give out food, and make a living off of it. And with Donnie, he was just hurt because he found out that Mikey had applied to college without telling him. And the truth is that sometimes we do things in order to make our siblings happy, even if it means that we may be hurt. And with Mikey, he wants to follow his dream and go to school and do the things that he wants to do. And Donnie supports that dream later on at the end of the movie and agrees to pay with his savings to do that. And even so, they still got to use the food truck for one night as a grilled cheese truck, and it was super successful. And you gotta really think about that. Siblings are always going to be siblings, and once you're connected to them, it's never really gone. And there's that aspect. And when you don't believe that someone can be your sibling because of what they've done to you, that's okay. And there's definitely situations out there where it's like, I can choose my family. And the point is that Donnie and Mikey chose each other because Donnie raised Mikey when he could have not raised him. And Mikey still stays with Donnie because it's his brother. There's just that aspect of love and camaraderie that comes with siblings. And it comes with friends too, even the ones that you may not expect. So when you have like friends, you will always connect to the people that you kind of meet first. And with kids, they're never afraid to make new friends, no matter who they are or what they do. It's just like, hi, this is my name, this is your name, let's be friends. And I think I admire that in kids so much, that they don't have the filter yet that they need, but at the same time they love just because they love people. And I think that's just very admirable for children, and as they grow up and earn their character and their attitude. And there is also, when you grow up, you're scared to make friends, or you think that you're not going to be compatible being friends with someone just because they're completely different than you. And with Molly and Zoey, I really just want to say that they are really opposite. That Molly is homeschooled, kind of more of a insider, doesn't really do much, but she's very ambitious. Whereas Zoey, she's very extroverted, but she kind of hides herself and is like, you would see these people as two different people, but in the movie they come together and they get to know each other better as almost like sisters, as friends. And seeing that dynamic of two seemingly completely different people just come together was really nice. I don't think I focused on it as much in the movie. I really was just focusing on the escapism and how a lot of the things in the movie kind of lead to the escapism, expectation versus reality aspect. And the friendship, you would in some way expect, oh, they're not going to be friends. They don't have a lot in common. But in reality, they have a connection. And if the connection is there, they'll make it work. Because when you make friends, if you have the right connection and you click with someone, you can make the relationship work with them. And you'll love them and make sure they're taken care of. And sometimes the click is not really the most evident thing. It's also getting to know the person. And throughout the movie, Molly and Zoey have these conversations about who they truly should be and what they want to do, and just they continue clicking and clicking and clicking and clicking. And you see that it's like, oh, these two girls are so different, and they're also very empowered. Zoey agrees to finally break up with her boyfriend Kale, and Molly actually in the movies where the first kiss, it's always the guy that gives the girl the first kiss. No, it was Molly that gave Josh the first kiss. Now that I saw it, I was just like, yes, we love some girl empowerment. Would I do that? If I really liked the person, sure. But of course, to each its own. You feel that empowerment in that each person, when they gain the strength and realization that, hey, I am this and my strength is this, and I don't need to be stuck. I can burst out and give this empowerment. That's really what the movie is about. That there's just so much growth and strength in numbers and finding one another. And in reality, it's all love, but in different forms. I have a question to ask you. What do you think about when you hear the word love? Okay, so love. I think, for me at least, love is about romantic relationships. You're talking about, love, PDA, getting to know someone. Typically it's a monogamous relationship. It's all of these things that we consider to be one word. And one word can have so much depth and meaning to so many people, even in different languages. And love, I like saying this phrase that love is love is love is love. And I typically say that romantically, relationships, but you can say that with friendships, with having colleagues, and that you have like a brotherly love, sisterly love, friendship love, romantic love, like so much love. And even first love, like that's a thing too. And when you think about all these loves, you have some sort of expectation that is like, oh, I'm going to do great. There's going to be this and this and this. But there's so many factors because you're thinking about the other person and the circumstances you both are in. And whether that be family, how the family reacts to you being a friend, the siblings, and arguing their own ideologies, the other person's ideologies and beliefs. You're having to mix all of this together. And that's when the expectations go thrown out the window, because you're never going to find someone that you won't necessarily disagree with. And that's what I find really wonderful. And this is the year that every single person has their own disagreements and has their own beliefs, but in the end, they all still love, and love is love is love is love. That's exactly what the movie is about. And it's about family, where it's forget about me, I love you. And no matter what, that's always the message. That's the message I hope that people will emulate, that regardless of the differences, it's forget about me, I love you no matter what. No matter who you are, no matter what you are. And that's just it. There's really nothing else to it. Of course, differences are going to happen, and that's really life. When I'm talking about escapism, relationships, brotherly bonds, girl empowerment, all of it, it's forget about me, I love you. And the differences just fall apart. Okay, so that is the end of this episode of Killigan Circumstances. Whew, I did not expect myself to go into so much depth, but I think that it's necessary because this movie touches on a lot of important topics, but in a lighter way. And it needs to be brought to attention, because even though not lots of movies will give attention to these topics, when they do, it's recognizable and it can help people relate. And that's what I really wanted to point out to all of you. So thank you guys for watching. This has been another episode of Killigan Circumstances. I'll see you guys in the next review, and bye.